Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Sapiens. I am your host, Humpty Calderon. And today I'm very excited to have a good friend and fellow Bankless DAO member on the podcast. His name is Perchy, and we're talking about Chippi NFTs, of which he is the founder and creator of. Now, we go back to the beginning, at the beginning of this story, to where Chippis first started. And I realized that Chippis were actually Perchy's way of documenting his crypto journey in Bankless DAO when he first started. And this really resonates with me because it just reminds me that no matter how small or personal a contribution to a DAO, it can grow to take a life of its own and grow a strong community around it as well. So Chippi, for those of you who don't know, are a series of 500 non-generative NFTs. They are hand-drawn by Perchy himself, and they're tied together by this character that is very familiar and very cute. In our conversation, we talk about everything from brand building to signaling your commitment to your community, as well as building a layered metaverse with your NFTs. As always, there's lots to unpack here. So let's get started.
So before this, I was a high school teacher. An English teacher living in Myanmar. And for the last 10 years or so, I've been doing not that role exactly, but international teaching roles. I lived in South Korea before Myanmar, and now located in Costa Rica with my partner, Cute, who's also part of the Bankless DAO community, the Chippi community, and many of these other Web3 circles that we all love. So I never know where to begin these how did you get here kind of stories, because it's all sorts of different threads here. So let me know if I'm rambling too much or get too distracted. So I feel like I think this part's relevant because I've always sort of wanted to try these kind of new things, different things. I've never been too comfortable or satisfied just kind of doing the normal thing, the status quo. I'm talking mainly when it comes to my job, whatever I'm doing at the time. So to kind of give an example of that, like my first job was, I went to school for creative writing. I ended up graduating and working as an accountant in a large U.S. bank. Totally not my background at all, but it was an interesting year to learn about that world. It was actually in 2008. So I was seeing the financial meltdown from that perspective. I decided it just wasn't for me. And so I quit that job. And for a while, I was a kind of a semi-professional online poker player, which is, before that, a hobby that I'd been doing for quite a while, and was not making great money, but enough to get by for that 6 months to a year where I was just doing only that. And during that time, I was sort of planning what my next phase would be. I think I knew right away, I wasn't going to be a committed professional poker player and go down that route. And so I decided, I started volunteering. I was teaching at a English as a second language center, and through there discovered the opportunity to teach abroad. And shortly after that, I was on a plane to South Korea, and that started my international teaching career. So, which I guess some would find the international teaching scene to be kind of an eclectic, or kind of not maybe the mainstream way as far as teaching goes. To be, it's a smaller percentage of people there. So I guess just all this to say, like, something like crypto, I think really drew me in immediately, just seeing it as this kind of a frontier, a new frontier, similar in a way to online poker was at the time, or international teaching, something maybe that was a little less explored than other areas. And so because it's less explored, presents these very unique and fun interesting opportunities. So I think that's what drew me both to crypto, like philosophically and sort of as a personality wise, and then kind of led me into this DAO and crypto space.
So first of all, it sounds like you were already a person of the world prior to crypto, right? And I say that framed by this idea that like crypto and Web3 is this like worldwide event, right? This movement that isn't necessarily just for certain regions of the world, but it involves everyone around the world. And anyone can participate in this movement. You were already kind of doing a little bit of that through kind of this work that you were doing in teaching around the world, but also maybe even through poker. I'm not sure. Maybe you just had a residence in Vegas. I don't know. I don't know what that entails, but I think that's pretty rad. I like this idea that you had this like global perspective. And maybe, is it fair to say that that kind of lends itself into how you think creatively, into how you think about communities around the world?
Yeah, good question. I think that traveling and living in a few different countries has definitely shaped how I think a lot, in kind of just subtle ways over time. But I guess if I were to connect the dots there, I guess just broadly, I think we're entering a phase where international travel's so easy relative to how it used to be. And I think borders are going to be breaking down a bit in terms of just friction for people moving to one place or another. And I think that's visible a lot with this digital nomad idea. In the last few years with the pandemic, of so many jobs moving to just remote, that it kind of we kind of have to have this change where physical location becomes less relevant to what you're doing. I don't know if I answered the question, but
no, I think you did.
Kind of got lost there.
No, that's fine. So let's touch on some of the things that you do, right? So I think one of the projects that you are most recognized for are the Chippi NFTs. I mean, let's start with just where that started and introduce what Chippi NFTs are. Then we can dive down deep that rabbit hole.
Yeah, happy to. So a few different places that I would have to reference here. The first time that I ever drew a Chippi character, if you haven't seen them before, they're these sort of amorphous white blob creatures with a face, very minimalistic sort of style. And I had a notebook several years ago where I just decided I was going to sketch some comics and some ideas down. And so they made their first appearance that I can remember in a notebook where I was just creating comics, not to show anyone, just for fun, about things that I saw in my life at the time. And then I kind of, forgot about that and set that aside. And when they really kind of emerged as what they are now, was basically shortly after the launch of Bankless DAO, so a couple years ago now. So when Bankless DAO launched, I was fortunate enough to be a part of that launch and that airdrop, and it was a really exciting time in my life, and a lot of change was going on. So I just left my previous country. I left Myanmar and was on the way to Costa Rica. I was living in a couple different places in between, visiting family. So a lot of these ideas around this time, actually, I invented, my sister loves to say, from her basement, which is where I was living, in my sister's basement. And a shout out to my sister, by the way, who's a huge part of the Chippy community. She runs the Discord in there, Kathay. So she's been a loyal supporter from the very beginning. So when the Bankless DAO launched, lots of chaos. Everyone was kind of trying to figure out what was going on, what we were doing. And I think from the first or the second community call is when the idea came to me that I should make comics to document what was happening. And one of the first comics I made was the Pope-POAP debate, which I think was historically just settled last week, if I'm correct. I think they settled on the wrong answer. I think they chose Pope, right? Which, anyway. So I drew a comic sort of showing the schism. Like, it was obviously just a very fun and friendly debate within the DAO, but, what if it was like a little more rancorous? So I decided to do like people getting really upset about which, and divided into camps over this. So I threw that into the Bankless DAO channels and got a lot of positive feedback from it. From a lot of people seem to really like the idea more than I expected, and so that just inspired, kind of encouraged me to make the next one and make the next one. And then a short time after that, I thought, I'll make these as PFPs for people. And I think Crypto Bushy was just starting his, not the DAO punks, not the main DAO punks, but there was a sort of a precursor to that, the OG DAO punks. And he was doing those for members in the DAO. And so that's what I did as well. I offered people in the DAO to make a profile picture for them, and lots of people wanted one, and so that's where that began.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I like this idea too of Chippis being born around the same time as Bankless DAO, because I feel like the biggest ambassadors for Chippy, and I may be wrong here, are the Bankless DAO community. They are Chippy strong. They vibe, with this little blob, as you say, though they've certainly evolved from their original, minimalistic design to be, I've seen some really complicated designs. And I have to say that I'm sure not everybody is very good at being a patron. And I'm going to include myself there because, and it's because I think as individuals who have an idea of what we want, many times we absolutely do not know, but we have at the core very strong feelings about the vibes, if you will. So anyways, this to say that the Bankless DAO community certainly upholds the love and vibes for Chippis. So, and by the way, it's POAP. I don't know what savages
agreed
call it Pope.
Agreed.
I do not understand this debate at all. That should not be a debate. But going back to Chippis, tell me a little bit about how this has grown. Obviously, you kind of described them a little bit, going from what they were in terms of these comics, in your way of using that as a way to document some of the stories that were being told within the Bankless DAO. But now, as Chippis go, there's got to be quite a few out there. Are there some metrics to kind of talk about how many Chippis are out in the wild? How many people are holding Chippis? Like, I mean, they don't have to be like, 10,000 or 20,000, but I'm just curious because I think that they're quite a powerful icon for, identity. And there are many people who have actually put these Chippis up there together with like MFers and Deadfellas in terms of creating your brand around that. So let's pull on that thread a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So as far as metrics go, OpenSea introduced analytics tool that's makes it very easy to see all of that information. I also have a lot of that information stored in my head and also on some spreadsheets on my computer. So I can tell you that 405 Chippis have been created out of a total maximum supply of 500. So just a little over 4/5 of the way through that. And yeah, just quickly want to jump back and say that no, I don't think you're a bad customer at all. And so everyone obviously has a very different approach, which is something I've learned through this. When people, just to explain a little more, people sometimes will commission Chippis from me, which is a service that I'm currently providing for 0.07 ETH. I will create a customized Chippi, and everyone really comes at this very differently. Some people want me to just completely take over the creative control and come up with something for them. And those are actually the ones I find the most challenging, to be honest, is when they say, why don't you just create something for me that I'll like? Because I have no problem creating something, that I like. And I guess that's what I've learned to do is like, I'm not going to worry about what I think they might like. I'm just going to make something I like and show it to them, and maybe they'll like it as well. But I actually do appreciate when people are very specific and they have lots of like these, because then it takes the creative load off of me completely. And I'm just like, okay, I'll make it how they want. And that's, so in a way that's preferable in some ways. It makes me not have to think as much. But yeah, so everyone approaches it differently. There's no right or wrong way. Okay, I wanted to go back to the question at hand. We were talking about analytics, I think, and the numbers of Chippy. So Chippy are not generative. I draw each one by hand. I do use a basic template for the main Chippy, but each one I create is largely by hand. So this project has been going for almost 2 years now, and only 400 have been created. So it's definitely been a slow. Not many projects have had a long 2-year mint period where it's just very one by one getting churned out. But I think that's something that makes Chippy a little unique in that regard.
Yeah, and I think to kind of also cover one of the other questions that I asked was in terms of this idea of creating brand identities or personal identities with these Chippies. As a creator, I guess, because I do want to also, merge this idea of creation, but also of identity and the tools that you have at your disposal and crypto or NFTs. What are your thoughts in terms of how people use these as a way to identify themselves in this space? And as a creator, what are your thoughts about, what you're bringing to the table and, whether it's empowerment to you or empowerment to these individuals through their own identities?
This is such a big question, and it's such a interesting one, and I don't know how to begin. It's something that I think my thoughts on it have just been evolving from the very beginning. If we go back to 2 years ago or 3 years ago, obviously the idea of a profile picture has been around for quite a while on the internet. People have used avatars in various ways, but sort of this NFT profile picture has changed the meaning of it in some ways that I don't think the community has completely articulated what it means yet. I remember very early on ideas and still is right click saving is this big taboo or big almost like a a crime. Like you can't use a profile picture of an NFT that you don't own, right? That's sort of like a social code that was created with NFTs and with profile pictures as NFTs. And that right-click saving, obviously, that would have made no sense before the blockchain, right? Everything was right-click saved then, so the distinction didn't matter, or there couldn't be a distinction because there's no way to own it. So, yeah, the rules are being written, and what the identity means is also being co-created by the whole community. But I guess one interesting thing that I really like about it so far, as a collector myself, I've collected PFPs and NFTs from various collections, and I like this idea that I can have multiple identities at once, and I can have my identity as Perchy, my Chippy. I can have an identity with a DAO punk and other projects. I don't think I want to necessarily plug anything for, else, but so just this idea that you can have all of these different avatars and own them as NFTs, and they can have these different aspects of yourself can be represented through them.
Yeah, I it comes to me that one of the places where I think I share these different identities the most, or where I have the most diversity in my identities, is Discord. And the reason for that is Discord allows you to use a different PFP in different servers, right? And even in Web3 servers, like the Chippy Discord server, you're able to verify the fact that you own a certain Chippy, for instance. So this is a pretty cool way of like not just representing yourself, like you said, in terms of how you choose to share who you are to that community, to that group of friends, but also to really what's the word I'm looking for here? Right, really to kind of nail down this idea of like the commitment of that you have to that community, right? It's like, oh, I'm not just presenting myself as this cool Chippy. I'm actually authenticating myself as this Chippy to this community to show that I don't just like what they're doing, but I'm also here to support what they're doing and to participate in growing this. And so this idea of community is definitely not new. Obviously, communities have been around for a long time, and I think Reddit and Twitter and Discord have been doing this, kind of service to bridging communities across the world. But I think NFTs are really adding another layer of complexity and coolness to being a member of a community, right?
Yeah, I really like the way that you put that, because these are ideas that I've also shared, but haven't thought of them exactly in that way. I think you're right. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about Discord allowing that kind of fracturing into different personalities, different different identities in different places. Could be a personality as well, but I think it just makes it more of a versatile tool for us to use. And there's something cool about being able to go into a community, and it's almost like you're putting on your clothes for that occasion. You're going to put on your Chippy in the Chippy Discord. You'll put on DAO Punk in the DAO Punk one, etc. And these, as you said, have existed before. Communities forever, internet communities since the internet, but this is something different, and I think we're figuring out in some ways just exactly how it's different, what that ownership does to change the equation. But I think at least one thing is the commitment and the like you said, it's not just it's not just showing that you like something. It's a much deeper commitment than that. These things are scarce and they have value, and that skin in the game, and that you have had to sacrifice something to get into to buy the NFT, even if it's just like the cost of the gas. Like that shows you care about it in a way that was impossible to communicate through the internet, other than with words, which are not the same.
Yeah, and I think this is actually a good bridge, a good segue to thinking about decentralized applications and decentralized social. So let me build that bridge and see if we can get across it without falling down. Because I'm not the best maker of bridges here, I got to be honest. But this idea of Discord allowing you to present yourself, to different communities in different ways, different identities. The key piece to showing that commitment isn't just the fact that you can change the image, but like we mentioned earlier, is to actually verify the ownership of that, right? Now, Twitter has introduced something where you could, verify or upload or an NFT by verifying that you own it through a wallet. But it's still, in my opinion, limited. Discord probably would be the best place to kind of present that if there was some Web3 native way of doing that. There are a ton of new applications that are getting built. Like on this podcast alone, I've interviewed quite a few different people that are building decentralized social applications, decentralized community portals. What are your thoughts in terms of how these applications, these decentralized social protocols can think about communities coming together and showing up for each other, showing the commitment, showing the shared values by using NFTs as a shared identity?
So there's going to be, we're seeing the beginnings of a lot of these decentralized social media apps. I've been trying them out myself, and there hasn't been that critical moment where people have started to shift to that off of the Web 2 versions of them. But I think that's just a matter of time until everything falls, all the pieces fall into place for that moment to happen. But just so we used the word flexibility before. Decentralized social media apps will be flexible, I believe, if they are able to be built upon permissionlessly, like the rest of crypto. Then there's going to be kind of I imagine there'll be an explosion of innovation that goes on there, that's going to unlock things that we will not even know to mention right now. Like we won't. The next big thing is something that we haven't thought of yet. But I think that the social media space is ripe to be one of those places where crypto is really going to disrupt and massively evolve our space. You can just see the power of the communities as they are now using these mostly Web 2 versions. Other than the ability to verify your NFT on Twitter just to get that, that hexagon, or in Discord, they have some integration as well. You can verify you own something. But I think these are just the surface. This is just scratching the surface. They're great for now, and maybe we don't need much more in this moment. But as we continue, imagine the full metaverse from Ready Player One or something, where it's all of these different types of interactions to are possible with these tools, with NFTs and with crypto. So, yeah, it's hard to like wrap my mind around it.
I like this reference you made about Ready Player One. By the way, love the book. Terrible movie. But
book was definitely better. Yeah.
I think our imaginations are always better than what someone can put on a screen. So to be fair, my imagination is just better than that producer's imagination. To be fair. But the reason why I bring that back is, I've always thought about the future of Web3, right? The future of crypto being this choose your own adventure multiplayer game, right? Where imagining Ready Player One, a metaverse in which anyone, depending on their experience level, just depending on their interests, depending on their ownership of certain assets, they are welcomed to a variety of games. And each game will present itself to that individual in different ways, because not everyone will want to play the game the same way. And there will be other players in that game with whom they might be able to interact, but no one else can, right? I like this idea of layering the metaverse as well. And I think a lot of that richness, a lot of that dynamic interaction comes from our identities, right? And how we choose to present ourselves. But, and partly that could be the NFTs that we have, the communities that we've kind of become a part of, maybe through Web2 interactions on Discord, or, Hexagon, PFPs that we've shown on Twitter. I think that's a really interesting case. So what are your thoughts about that? And if you could add, what would the Chippy metaverse look like? Have to sneak that one in there.
Yeah, the Chippy metaverse. Yeah. So based on what you're saying, I don't think there would be a Chippy metaverse, or it would be a part of this greater thing, which is, I think, the whole reason we're here in the first place, is because we don't games. I've been a gamer all my life. I love playing games. Each game feels like its own siloed off kind of thing, and maybe that's good for certain cases. But imagine, I think probably one of the huge breakthroughs in gaming history was the MMORPGs, where you have these just massive player bases that can all be online at the same time and be doing all kinds of crazy things. And that's, it was the first time, I think, in gaming that I'm aware of that created that sense of, like maybe going back to this interconnectedness and this worldwide sort of situation. Because I think when you enter into these games, like, they are very international. They're all over people playing these all over the world, right? So, but as they exist today, they're also siloed. So you join this game, and like World of Warcraft, and that's the game. That's it. Like, you can play with everyone in the world who's playing that same game as you. But like you were saying, maybe through this layering, we can get to this. We can create a game or this network of games where you're playing your game alongside people who are playing anything they want. And it, I guess, like, the best visual analogy I could think of is my imagination from Ready Player One for what that would look like.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, just so one project that I have looked into some Web3 games just a little bit. I want to dive deeper into that this year. But one idea that I find really interesting is you have some NFT that can be used in multiple games throughout multiple locations. And just so that's, I think, what you're getting at with this layering thing. Or, for example, like, why I don't think there will just be a Chippy metaverse. Like, if you have your Chippy, it can exist throughout this network that allows for it. That's written maybe some set of rules for how a Chippy exists in these different places, and maybe they can vary, but it's a network, right?
Yeah, I guess as you've described that, I am revising my thought of what I would call a Chippy metaverse or just any particular project's metaverse. And I can think of it as, to your point, there's like this singular world where everyone can go play, right? Their experiences are different based, again, on, like, personal experience, interests, and, NFTs or identities that they have. But the Chippy metaverse would really just be that set of rules of what a Chippy is, a set of items that it can have, a set of level ups. So it's like an upgrade pack, right? You just introduce that pack into this MPorg, right? And suddenly you are your Chippy with all of these other things that are part of your Chippy metaverse, and you're playing a game with Chippy rules in this much larger world, and you can find your tribe of Chippis in this world as well. I just really, that's a really interesting idea that that I'm thinking about, and which also leads me to ask, can we get some Chippy items as a separate collection?
Oh yeah, I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about. I really love just what you said there about the about how this that revised idea of what this means. It's it's fascinating. Chippy items. So I'm not ready to say anything. I think you were asking a little bit facetiously, but I'll answer it seriously. I've been thinking about what to do next in the Chippy world. I'm going to be finishing the 500 Chippy at some point, possibly having a next generation profile picture that might be Chippy-esque in the future, but that's still a bit too early to say anything too definitively about, other than I'm thinking about it. The Bankless locations, another project that I'm coming near the end of. My goal is to finish or get nearly finished in this calendar year. And as far as items go, there's so many different places that we can go next, and I tend to move a bit slowly, I think. Maybe in some ways fast, some ways slow, but I like to see what's happening, see what other cool things people are inventing and iterating on, because there is so much stuff happening all the time. And it really is pays to be plugged in to what's going on. And going back again, I guess, to that community factor, I love having these communities that are connected to you and just like let you know what's going on. Like, so I would say the majority of like innovation inside of the Chippy project has come from internally, not from me necessarily, but from other people who are passionate about the project and who are there in the Discord. Like, so your suggestion here about items, like, it's very much like that. You are a Chippy, of course, too. So it's ideas like these. I love getting inspiration from the community, and I want to figure out a way to empower that community. So, like, you want Chippy items, maybe it's not necessarily bottlenecked by me anymore. Maybe I can figure out some way of setting things up where I allow the Chippy community to just run with this idea, and they can create some Chippy can create items over here, and we could be iterating on tens of different ideas at the same time. If that maybe my answer is, I don't want my answer to be, oh, go make them yourself, because that's not the vibe that I want to communicate here. But I want to explore this idea of community empowerment more in this next year.
Yeah, no, I think you made that absolutely clear. I don't think you're asking people to go out and do their own thing. But what you're saying, at least what came across to me was, and I think this is true because I've been in that Discord many times, is that there is a community that's there, the community that has chosen to not just buy a Chippy, verify a Chippy, has also chosen to come together and be a part of something that's more than themselves, to ideate, to help the project to grow in ways that are interesting and fun. Because, I got to be honest, there's definitely a lot of other projects that whose primary idea of community and growth were very much tied to the financial element of it, right? Whereas I think there's a genuine belief in ideals and values and art for the sake of being art, and community for the sake of being community. Of course, everything that I've said would be really interesting in terms of expanding that universe, right? But as long as it's sustainable, as long as it means something to the community that exists there, that would be wonderful. And it seems like the community has an open forum for them to have these discussions and together generate that value, whether they collaborate with you to assist in the creation of these items, or in some distribution of these items, or marketing of these items, or in integration to other projects. Because I can already think of a few that I'm going to go knock on doors and say the Chippy verse should be in here. I think that's excellent. And by the way, Rarible, I just recorded an episode with them like a week or two before this one, and I realized, I didn't know this, but they have a community marketplace, and there are quite a few projects, I would say, of the scale of Chippis who have created their marketplace through Rarible. And so there's this like ecosystem of come and, not just buy your Chippis here, but also congregate and build community around the marketplace too, which I think is quite interesting.
Yeah. I want to go check that out. Yeah, I've been a Rarible user. That was actually the very first platform that I minted my first NFT on. So I have a fondness for Rarible. I love. There's a lot of things that I want to say at once. Want to respond to here. The I don't know a better word for it, just vibes. Sometimes I don't like using that word, but sometimes it's just the right word, like the vibes in the Chippy Discord are unlike any I've seen in any internet community before that I've been a part of. And I think I can definitely draw a clear line between Web 2 communities and Web 3 communities in this sense as well. Similar. So very early in the show, you said like the Bankless DAO is a big part of Chippy, and that's absolutely true. It's very much like it's no like accident they were born at the same time. All of the early supporters were Bankless DAO members, and I'd say the majority, maybe the vast majority, are in Bankless DAO as well. And the very similar vibes in Bankless DAO, just this connection and camaraderie and caring about each other that I didn't really see in. Maybe it could very well be my own subjective experience in being a part of the online poker community when that was the first big internet community I was a part of. And there was a lot of interesting conversation. I learned a ton from that and did make some connections with people, but there wasn't that sense. And maybe it was because it was poker also, so you're kind of pitted against each other in some way, even though not when you're on the forum talking about it. But even in other like various video gaming communities that I've been a part of, no sense that you're all united in this way, which is, I think, what NFTs bring to the picture.
Well, Perchy, this has been a fun chat. I don't know what else we could have talked about, but please do let me know we failed to talk about something that we should have definitely brought up.
I don't think so. This has been a wonderful chat. I've had a great time. So glad we finally got a chance to do this.
Yeah, glad. Same here. So the last question that I ask to all of my guests, at least most recently, is what or who has been the most influential to you in your crypto journey?
Oh my goodness. Wow. Do people try to cheat the question and answer with multiple answers? Because that's what I'm that's what I'm feeling very much compelled to do here. I guess my Anon, not Anon to me, but one of my very good friends growing up was the person who very first introduced me to Bitcoin several years ago. So as far as influential goes, that by definition has to be way up there. After that, discovering David Hoffman and Ryan Sean Adams and their podcast, I would say was the next wave of influence on me and kind of got me. Converted me from a pure Bitcoiner to a kind of I would say neutral to maybe ETH leaning crypto person. And then the next wave after that, and maybe the most like personally significant wave was this when I entered the crypto space as a creator, which is just 2 years ago, about with the start of Bankless DAO and my own journey as an artist and creator. And that's where I find it very hard to answer because there's so many. There's so many. Like it, just everyone in Bankless DAO. My sister, my girlfriend, who supported me to not necessarily in a crypto sense, but helped me in just take a chance on myself and allow myself to make this jump and kind of leap into the unknown, and commit to this full time. And I guess Frog Monkey, James Montgomery, Iced Cool, just a few people very early on who saw those first comics and tipped me some bank and said even more than that was just giving a few kind words and being like, this is great, I'd love to see another one, or just gave me that encouragement, which it's amazing how just a few words in the right moment in your life can just send you on a path, right? And so, getting a little emotional just thinking about it. But that's the Bankless DAO, Bankless DAO strong. That's what I want to say.
And that's a wrap. If you'd like to learn more about Perchy and Chippis, you can follow them on Twitter at TheFutureIsDAO1 and Chippi NFT. And as always, please go ahead and give us a like and a subscribe and a 5-star review wherever you listen to our podcast. It truly means a lot to us, and it helps this content get to more people like you. And if you'd like to listen to more content like this, you can go to our website at cryptosapiens.xyz. Until next time, stay brainy.